Good evening and welcome to the satsang this Thursday evening. My name is Brahmachari Devendra. Those of you who do not know me, I do a satsang once in a while for Pune, but basically uh, I take care of the center in Ahmedabad. We have a center there, a small group there. So I do take classes and satsangs over there, but I can see some of you on the screen, even though I cannot see you really, but I can see the names and I can visualize that you are sitting behind right there. So at least good to see some of you here in the satsang. So as always, this evening, and here comes one of our old friend, Vayu. So this evening, I have taken a chapter, sloka from chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is chapter 7 from Bhagavad Gita. The name is Knowledge and Wisdom. And before we go into the shlokas, I just wanted to give you a little bit of brief idea about chapter 7, Knowledge and Wisdom, what Krishna is talking there. In a very nutshell, there are 30 sutras, shlokas there. And Krishna is talking about, who are the seekers? Why do people seek me? And what are the difficulties they face? What is the gunas? A little bit about the gunas in 30 shlokas. And he talks about para-prakriti and apara-prakriti, which is like lower nature and higher nature in human beings, which are in conflict. So these things, Krishna is talking about these things in chapter 7, but I have picked up the shloka 16, and a little bit of 17 and 18 also. But before we go into that, Krishna says in third shloka, probably we all know this is a very famous, very common shloka where which Yogananda ji has often mentioned, and Swamiji also mentioned this very often. He says that out of 1,000, one seeks me. And out of those thousands, those who seek me, one finds me. But later on in that chapter, in the middle of the chapter, Krishna tells who are those people that are seeking me. What kind of people are they who are seeking me? Of course, out of 1,000, only one is seeking, 999 is out of the picture, only one is seeking, but out of those 1,000, those who are seeking, what kind of people they are, what kind of devotees they are who are seeking. And so that's our discussion today. And so I wanted to read, before we go into that discussion, I wanted to read that sloka itself. So this is 16 sloka from chapter 7. So Krishna says, those who seek shelter in me, O Arjuna, are of 4 types. Those who are in distress, those who seek understanding, number 2. Number 3 is those who seek power in this world are the next. Now that's number 3. Number 4, he says, and those who are already wise. So what are these 4? Those who are in distress, those who seek understanding, those who seek power in this world are the next, and those who are already wise. So let's go into that, these one by one. The first one, he says, Krishna says, those who are in distress. And of course, everybody goes through challenging time, difficult times, distressing time in life. And those are also important times in our life, because probably those are the time which pushes us to seek the deeper meaning in life. And that's why there is a line of Yogananda ji. He said that your trials did not come to punish you, but to awaken you. So Master said that your trials did not come to punish you, but to awaken you. Every problem, every difficult situation comes in our life so that it can push us in deeper meaning in our life, right direction in our life. And that's what Master is saying, that no problem, there is no problem but only opportunities. But again, how few people can understand these things. If we were given in childhood, when we were small, in schools, at least if these thoughts, these seeds were put in our mind, probably we'll understand better as we grow up in our latter part of our life. Because as children, probably we don't face so much of the difficult situations, but as we grow, yes, we face the real world situations. Then the second thing Krishna says here, who is seeking? He says, those who seek understanding. Now, this is a time right now, this pandemic time, when a lot of people are seeking understanding. And think about the time when Yogananda Ji came. When he came to this world, 1916 and 1915 to 20, there was World War I, 1918 Spanish flu, 1930s worldwide economic depression, 1940s, 1945, Second World War. How many things were there in just 35 years? 4 big events, major events that shook people. Those were the events when they shook people, and that's what a lot of people were coming to Yogananda Ji's classes in America, and Master said that. Somebody said, oh, you came to such difficult times, and Master said, otherwise you would have got many more people. And Master said that, well, that's why they are coming, otherwise they would not listen to me. So that's the time when a lot of people are seeking, and this is a good thing. Of course, this is the time when we cannot really laugh. But yes, after a year or two, when the situation will have passed over, we will probably be grateful that yes, it was good. I'm on the right track. And so Master also talked about the Sankhya philosophies, where the first sutra says that Atyanta Trivida Dukkha Param Purusharth, meaning the highest necessity of man is to free himself from all kinds of suffering. And the Sankhya philosophy gives, actually, there are 3 kinds of suffering, and one of them is, of course, one is personal, from our own karmas, from our own problem, but one of them is beyond our control, that we cannot control, and it is happening because in this world, and because we are part of the world, we go through that ups and downs also. And so, for example, let's say earthquakes, which is a bigger phenomena, bigger event, and when it happens, whether you are a good person or bad, we are all affected by that. Of course, people who are spiritual, they are less affected by that, but people who are not spiritual, they are worldly, they are much more affected by that. One example could be, Swamiji said that his father was very good, a very nice man, very good man. Swami Kriyananda, he said that his father was very good man, just like most people in this world. But he said that he was not spiritual. But at the end of his life, when latter part of his life, when he got old, and his body was failing and he was suffering. He was a good person, he was a good man, but he was not spiritual. And so what is the difference between being just good, which we all want to be, but being more spiritual also? Because being more spiritual, it gives us the strength to face the challenges with a smile, with faith in God, that we don't complain that why this is coming to me. And so this is the good thing about spirituality. This is the best part of the spirituality, that it gives us strength, the power to face the challenges with a smile, with faith in life, in God, with trust. And with that, we don't complain. And we think, okay, if this is my time to go, I go with joy. I go with a smile on my face, taking the name of God. I will not go by thinking that why I'm suffering and why I have to leave this world right now. So that is the meaning, the deeper meaning of the spirituality. Then Krishna talks about, there's one shloka actually I wanted to mention here also, that Krishna says in chapter 12, and he says that he warns people, he tells everyone that get away from my ocean of suffering and misery. Krishna doesn't say that, oh, make this world perfect, because this is never going to happen. if we try, and that's what most people are trying to do, they're trying to make this word perfect. And because it's not going to happen, and that's why most people are suffering. And so Krishna says that don't try to make this word perfect, but try to get out of it. Get out of it means realize me, become one with me. And then once you have realized, you would not suffer. You are the seeker, you will not be suffering. Now, the fun part begins in the third and fourth seekers. Those who seek power, Krishna says, the seekers, those four kind of seekers. Number three, he says, those who seek power. And there are many stories and examples of those. One story master told, he said that there was one yogi, and he was very deep yogi, but he was at the same time very deeply devoted to God. He wanted just God's love, not anything else. And we know that when Krishna is talking about power, there is a fun thing in power, that when we are attracted to the people who perform miracles, because it's a kind of entertainment. We go to people, oh, they materialize this, vibhuti, they materialize that. It's kind of fun. It's kind of entertainment. So we go to these people. A lot of people go to such people because it's a fun, it's entertainment. But there are people who are also seeking power to, I can do this, I can do that. So this story belongs to that yogi who was deeply devoted to God, who wanted to love God, but he had a son also, who was also kind of a budding yogi. And he said that my father doesn't know anything, he doesn't have any power, so I want to go to learn something from someone who has the power, who can teach me some power. So he went away from his father, who was a yogi, and for some years he went away, and then he came back after 10-15 years, and then he tells his father, look what I have learned. And his father says, what did you learn? He says, come with me. And so they both went to the river, and the son, he begins to walk on the water. He said that I learned this, I got this power to begin to walk on the water. And he comes back after walking on the water, he comes back, and his father says, what? I can pay 5 rupees to the boat wala and I can cross the river. Why I should spend 15 years in learning this skill of walking on the water? What a waste of time. And so there can be many distractions for many of us, that once we begin to have a little bit of experiences, Master said that those experiences can become a distraction for us. Oh, I can see these things, I can know time, I can see what is happening. And so Master said those can become a distraction, and they can propel us to seek more power. And there are lots of stories like that. One story will be Swami Asha's story. This is again a real story. She mentioned that in the early years of Ananda, there were many yogis were visiting. And then one yogi who came, and they were all sitting, Swamiji was not there, Swami Kriyananda was not there in that room, but they were all sitting in one room. And the yogi asked to everyone to meditate, close your eyes and meditate. So Ashaji had experience that she closed her eyes in meditation, and she found that she was in Himalayas. And she opened her eyes and she found that she was in Himalayas. And she was really surprised that what was happening. Is this a delusion or what is it? And so there are people who have that kind of power. I forget that how Swamiji said about that event later on happening, but the essence of this story is there are many yogis, many advanced souls, they try to gather disciples by giving them spiritual experiences. And those are not the real thing that we want in our life. Think about our line of the gurus, what they have given. They have given a simple thing, how we can love God and how we can deepen our love for God. I wanted to read, this is our main point that we'll be discussing here. I wanted to read, Krishna says about these devotees, those who are seeking, those who are wise, the fourth devotees. And he says that the 2 points I wanted to really mention here, that 17 shloka, Krishna says, Outstanding among the wise is he whose devotion is constant and one-pointed, in a way that Krishna is reminding that keep your devotion, keep your devotion constant and one-pointed. And then he says, I am above all things, dear to that sage, and he of above all things, above all beings, is dearest to me. Krishna says that people who is constant in devotion and one-pointed, he is dearest to me. And the next stanza he says, all of the above four kind of virtuous men are noble, for the direction of their consciousness is upward, but the sage who has established himself firmly in me as the highest goal, him I look upon as indeed my own self. So Krishna says in these two stanzas, the last line says, he is the dearest to me. Him I look upon as indeed my own self. In one of the other stanza in chapter 6, Krishna says that he who watches me always, I watch him always. So that's the thing, that's the kind of devotee that Krishna says is the highest, those whose devotion is constant, one-pointed, and his focus is only on God, but not any kind of distractions. Now, there's another thing that I wanted to mention here. One simple story when you are seeking God, two actually, and very small little fun stories that we all know that Sister Gyanamata, who was Saint Teresa of Avila in the past life, and she was fairly very advanced soul in that past life also. One time, as in her convent or someplace, I forget where, how was the story, but as she was going, she met a boy, small little boy, and she asked, who are you? Actually, the boy first asked that, who are you, to Saint Teresa of Avila? And she said, I am Teresa of Jesus. And then Teresa asked the boy and said, who are you? And he said, I am Jesus of Teresa. That's the thing that we want to make a devotee, that he's so deeply engaged with God, with Krishna, with God in whatever form, our Guru, that we think that I am, let's say, Sheetal of Krishna, or I am Vayu of Krishna. That's a kind of one-pointedness, constant devotion we want. There's another fun story that when Master, I think this was in Swamiji's time, that this devotee who was standing out, probably in Master's time, Yoganandaji's time, and he was shaking hand with the people as they were leaving out of the church. And just to greet them goodbye, thank you for coming. And one person came and he shook hand and says that, you know who I am? And the devotee says, no. He says, I am son of the President of America. And the devotee says, you know who I am? And the fellow said, no. He says, my father is a Lord of the universe. So that was the identification that a devotee has, that even without a blink of the eyes, he didn't have to think about, who am I? I am child of God. I am child of Krishna. I am child of Divine Mother. That is such a deep identification that we don't even want to think or even a blink to even say about these things. So how should we seek? Because this topic is about seeking God. How should we seek? Master says, or Christ says also, seek like a miser seeks money. Seek God like a drowning man wants air. He's desperate for air. That desperation, that kind of seeking, that we want to develop in ourselves. But yes, maybe not this moment, but that's a goal for all of us. That level of seeking God should be our goal, nothing else. and we should not be satisfied with anything else, but that kind of level of seeking God we should be satisfied with. So let's practice these teachings in the coming week. Pick up anything, open chapter 7 and pick up anything from there, read it, and see what you like to practice from that chapter 7. So let's